Hoot. Right, ready? City of Glendale Common Council is now in session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Don't have a clerk tonight, so I guess City Administrator, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Doherty.
Here.
Alderman Gelhard.
Here.
Alderman Bailey.
Here.
Alderman Schmelzling.
Here.
Alderwoman Shaw. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Alderman Vukovic.
Carl, I'm
Sorry,
in
Alderwoman Vukovic.
here.
Okay. And Mayor's also present, so thank you. Yes, we have a quorum. All right, public comment. Glendale residents, business owners, and property owners are invited to speak to the mayor and council on items that are not on tonight's agenda, but are within the city's ability to regulate or control. Is there anyone wishing to speak to a non-agenda item? And could you state your name so that we know who you are, please? And your address. It should be, just start talking. It should be fine. Okay, there should be a. Well, it was all disconnected a little while ago. Carl had to hook everything back up. Uh-huh. Charlie's tech support, we're in a world of hurt.
And mic work.
Yeah, ours are, that one was, there was no table and there was no microphone. They were all pushed out of the way. Carl had to push them back earlier and set them up. Carl, do you want to just grab one of the other mics that's right there? No, there should be a bag with mics right behind the. Here we go.
Karaoke mics.
Other ones maybe? Okay, perfect.
Might be booting. I don't know.
You want to talk and see?
Not yet.
No, not working.
There we go.
Okay,
All right.
They're in
all
business.
fixed. Thank you.
All right, Robert Cronwell, 7530 North Applewood Lane. I'm here to ask when I would be paid in full for my court costs, attorney's fees, and judgment for my open records lawsuit against the city. My attorney has received a payment for $8,566.45 on May 31st. However, that only covers the costs through the circuit court's ruling. There were additional costs incurred from the city appealing the case to the Court of Appeals, and the total amount of costs and fees was $14,714.95. This has clearly been communicated from my attorney to the city's attorney, and I don't understand why the city's May payment was not for the full amount. And when can we expect the remaining balance due of $6,148.50?
Mr. City Attorney, I know you sent us an email about this to Carl and me, maybe a week and a half ago when you discovered the error, and if you could
Sure, yeah, so
share that with us.
there was a discussion after. There was a discussion that we had after the Court of Appeals decision came back. I worked with plaintiff's counsel on that. And we had reached an agreement to waive appeal rights in exchange for payment of the amounts that had been requested. And we had gone back and forth and on waiver of interest and other types of things. And I had asked my assistant to forward on the itemization that had been filed with the court. And I did not realize it at the time that the amount that had gotten filed was the itemizations through the completion of the circuit court proceedings. After that, I know that Mr. Cromwell was here when the amount was requested and approved, and nobody said anything, and then I heard 2 or 3 weeks later that there was an issue. There was an additional itemization that was provided. I reviewed it. I compared it to the amounts that we had incurred on our end. I also looked through the itemizations that we had been provided and again, compared them to ours. I also compared the rates. They were exactly the same as they were for the underlying circuit court case. We passed that on to the city, and the amount under the statute that is awarded is all of the costs and fees that are associated with that. So essentially, there was nothing that we could challenge at any rate. We agreed to address the issue and make the correct amount of the payment. I passed the information on to the mayor and to the administrator.
That was on July
Um,
1st, by the way.
And when we learned that issue, worked through with plaintiff's counsel and again, and I worked through the city bursar's office, or if you will, or the treasurer's office, and we resolved that. I spoke to plaintiff's counsel this afternoon and indicated that we would be following through on that, and that I received an email last week indicating that the additional payment would be made. I don't know, like I said, we had not heard anything after we had the public, it was on the earlier agenda. If somebody had said something at that point, we obviously would have realized it. But again, what happened was I had a conversation with plaintiff's counsel back and forth via phone and email, and we agreed to general terms of dismissal in exchange for the amount, that would be statutorily awarded. And then we forwarded the amounts, and I did not realize at the time that he had not supplemented a formal itemization to the court. He had sent the information to me in an email separately. I didn't realize it was not included. It was an honest mistake. I followed up with them on that, and we're in the process of making the appropriate payment. I don't know if it's gone out yet or not, but I did get an email from the clerk or clerk's office, or actually I think the finance director's office, saying that it was processed with the last round of checks.
Right, so the total that was reported to us when you reported about 2 months ago or so was $8,566.45. The additional amount that is in question now is $6,148.50, and that is what is being sent by the clerk or the treasurer. So the total amount the taxpayers of Glendale will have spent on this open records request was $14,714.95. So
I suggest we not even spend another second talking about this
yeah.
and let's move on.
So the check's in the mail is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think once it was brought to our attention, it became in the mail. So
right.
that's that phone
I'd
number
like to
that you
thank you
got
for
now.
making a big deal of it as usual.
Yes,
Thank you.
$15,000 to get a phone number that was already on the request. All right, I'm done. That's taxpayer dollars.
Did you have
poorly
anything
spent.
else, Mr. Cromwell?
Costs doubled when you decided to appeal it. I can't help it. You got bad legal advice. All right. That's it. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome. Please
Great.
come forward with something more useful in the future.
Is there anyone else wanting to speak in public comment? All right, then we will move on with our agenda. We have a very short agenda tonight. The consent agenda includes the adoption of the minutes of the May 13th and the June 24th meeting, as well as the approval of accounts payable. Can I have somebody give a motion, please, to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Consent agenda adopted without any objection. Hearing no objection, we will move on. 2 items of new business. First item is an authorization to execute an agreement with Lalonde Contractors for the construction of bike and pedestrian improvements not to exceed $1,223,249.16. I'll turn it over to the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. As a result of a number of public inputs, the city of Glendale decided to go out to bid for various bike and pedestrian improvements that were listed in the bid sheet. As a result, the total award for this contract, which includes an alternative for repairs to the Bender Bridge. Those repairs to the Bender Bridge were budgeted at $125,000, and the alternative bid on that was around $40,000, so a good savings. The total award being asked to approve tonight is just over $1.2 million, and that includes all the bike and pedestrian improvements and the alternative bid for the Bender Bridge repair. There is, in addition to that, $258,000 in design and construction engineering for the bike and pedestrian improvements. All in, the bid came in about $300,000 less than our engineer estimates that was provided to the council previously.
Thank you. And this exhausts our ARPA funds, correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
in the initial look at this, we thought we'd use about $300,000 in city money to construct these bike and pedestrian improvements. And under this scenario, it'll be pretty close to spending no money outside of the ARPA funds. And this includes the further extension down Green Tree all the way to Range Line.
All right. We get a motion then to approve the agreement with Lalonde Contractors as indicated on the agenda.
Moved.
Moved by Alderman Schmelzling. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bailey. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Motion carries. And our second item is a change order for the 2024 alley reconstruction project. Mr. Warwick?
Thank you again. So the city previously bid out the alley reconstruction project, and the low bidder was, now I'm going to lose it. And they are actually under construction right now in the Spruckerville area. The two alleys are torn up and there is no access to it. So this work has begun. As part of that project, we also bid traffic calming areas on Glendale and Marne. Those would begin after the alley reconstruction is done. Since then, we have had a number of conversations with a resident who lives at the end of Mill Road. And as you guys know, Mill Road, if you don't live in Glendale, you might think it goes all the way to the river and beyond to the lake, but it does not. There's a subdivision in the way that many people may not always realize. And I know the residents who petitioned for this request are here in the audience. Their house has been hit 5 times by drivers, including into their house.
7 times.
7 times? Okay, between 5 and 7. Either way, it's 5 or 7 times too much.
They've lost count.
Yeah. Putting into their kitchen and living room. So we've spent a significant amount of time trying to evaluate Mill Road to try to deter drivers or make drivers aware that it is not a through street. So after a number of designs and iterations, we came up with making Mill Road a right in, right out. So a straight driver going down Mill Road, once you get to Green Bay, you will not be able to go straight. You will have to either go north or south. And as you come out of Mill Road too, you would have that same decision whether to go left or right. And this contract includes the pavement striping so people won't turn left as you're headed southbound from Green Bay onto Mill, as well as some signs. We did issue a letter to the residents and the neighborhood who lives on Fairfield and Mill Road area. I don't know if Alderman Doherty, if you want to speak to
Yeah, I
that.
received some comments at one person that was not as much in favor, and I talked to him for quite a while, and they understood that there's plenty of options to get a left-hand turn to head south. One of them would be is you can do a U-turn at the light because there's a green arrow, or you can come out and go down to Brentwood and do a turnaround there too, or you can just make the left across. There'll be some improvements that'll come when Green Bay gets redone by the state in 27 or whatever. They'll make more improvements, but this improvement's really needed. One of the guys wrote me, I really appreciate his note because he'd done the homework of how many kids are down there and has lived there 4 years and just had tons of people come down, realize they can't get through, so accelerate through. They don't necessarily hit a house, but they accelerate through to get back out of there because they didn't mean to go down there. So to me, this is definitely, there's going to be more problems if we don't do something. And the number of people who've hit a place, I mean, that's not every single driver who came down there and was wrong. It's the sheer amount of traffic of people who are lost there that's the problem. I mean, both are problems, but, so I think this is we went through a lot of engineering changes and tries. This was the most economical one that really solves the issue. You could look at speed bumps, you can look at other things, but the trouble is all those mean that people are still down, they're already there. This is a way to keep it from happening in the beginning. So I think it's a good use of funds because I couldn't come up with a different way, and the engineering firm spent some reasonable chunk of time trying other ways, and everybody, when this came up, was like, this is clearly the best solution. So, yeah, I'm very in favor of this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Alderman Gelhard?
I'm just curious, the folks that have had their house hit, are they in the southeast corner?
Far last house.
Oh, I see. Okay, all the way down the road on Mill. Okay. I see. Wow.
Yeah, it looks like. this
Recently, they
street-
had a car come all the way down and miss the house and then made a U-turn through their entire yard. Almost got their mailbox in the way out. They had it on film. So it's 7 plus 1 near miss that we know of. So it's not changing.
That's in like a 5 or 6 year period. Yeah. And many of these in the middle of the night, I believe.
No, they're all hours. People seem to be, they do it in broad daylight too.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, the last one was at, I think, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Interesting. All right, would you like to make a motion,
I
Alderman?
would like to move that we accept this change order and make the improvements on Mill Road.
The second of Alderwoman Shaw. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
No. Motion carries. Yep. Okay, commission, committee, board and staff reports. I'll start with number 1, Alderwoman Vukovic, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
All right, number 2,
Nothing to report tonight.
number 3,
Nothing this evening.
4,
Nothing this evening.
5.
I still some thunder, but I do want to call out city staff, our police force, everybody for the great 4th of July event that we had. Like always, it rains a little bit on the 4th of July, but we were fortunate enough to still have our fireworks and the mega tent for being able to hide in the rain. So anyhow, just wanted to do a big shout out also specifically to our deputy city administrator, Jessica. She did an amazing job pulling this all together. So.
Thank you. Number 6. Okay, city attorney.
Absentee ballot boxes will be back based upon a decision released by the Court of the Wisconsin Supreme Court last Friday that overturned the Teagan case, and there's going to be some additional directive I anticipate coming from the WEC in the coming days. And it has also raised some ancillary issues that were decided in a series of other cases sort of related to similar topics, and we're trying to work through those with the clerk's office. But the moral of the story is, it looks like absentee ballot drop boxes will be back.
Chief.
Nothing to report.
All right, and city administrator.
So tomorrow is the Plan Commission meeting. There is a public hearing for a possible text amendment recommendation on drive-throughs in the city of Glendale. There is also, it's not a public hearing, but it is a item for consideration for the redevelopment of St. Aug Prep. The Plan Commission under the city and state rules has the authority to approve that since no zoning text or map amendments are being made. So those are 2 items that will be considered at the Plan Commission meeting tomorrow. Wednesday, New Land Construction, they are the developer on 2510 Good Hope Road. They are having an informal meeting here in the council chambers just to open it up to public comment to see what discussions they can have regarding that development. After that, on the 16th is the official public hearing for that development with the Community Development Authority. That is the 16th at 6 p.m. here in these council chambers.
Ed, I've heard a lot. So does that conclude your report?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll go into my report. I've heard from a number.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Alderwoman.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I have a question for the attorney.
Go ahead.
Is you said that the ballot boxes are in play, but I have a different understanding, and I just want to make sure I am clear. Isn't it up to the clerks if they're in play or not?
It is not mandatory. That is right.
Okay.
No municipality is required to use them. They're in play in the sense that the Supreme Court had previously ruled that the use of those did not comport with state statutes. So now they've ruled that it is, so it is not mandated or mandatory. Each municipality can decide for itself if it wishes to do that.
And that, okay,
Yep.
that's what I wanted to clear up just in case. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so piggybacking on Carl's remarks, I've heard from a number of folks in Fox Point about the Augustine Prep campus. Aug Prep is doing all of their construction on the Glendale side of the property. Nothing on the Fox Point side except an athletic field, which will come later. And they believe they did that intentionally because our process is smoother. We don't have public hearings for everything, but the village of Fox Point has a public hearing for everything. And so I expect to see a number of Fox Point folks here with wanting to speak, assuming that, you know, they get a public hearing in their village. Why don't we do them here? There's no zoning changes. So if you hear from any of those folks, Carl and I've had a number of meetings with the folks from Aug Prep. We raised a lot of questions around traffic, lighting, sound, and they listened to every single thing we said and came back with what I believe are reasonable improvements to the property that take into account all of those items. I think we'll likely have less complaints about light and sound from them than we've had about Nicolay. So based on what the improvements they've made. I have two other things.
Could I make one comment,
Yeah,
Ron,
go
real quick? Sorry to bother you, but I've also had a number of conversations with residents on both the north and south sides of the property.
Glendale residents.
Glendale residents about some of the concerns and questions they may have. So the Plan Commission might receive an email here in the next day or two, just with some minor amendments that some of the residents would like to see.
Okay, and then I have here, if anybody's interested, MMSD's audit was released today. Had it this morning at the MMSD meeting. It's a testament to excellent financial accounting, excellent bookkeeping. Well done at the MMSD. So that if anybody wants to see that. And then I did just want to, because I know I've spoken with a number of you, because we were obviously all at the 4th of July, and some of you raised the issues of what happened last week at the polls. We did have observers at all 3 of our locations. They began to challenge every single absentee ballot at all 3 locations. They were coordinated efforts. They were texting back and forth with each other. They had somebody who was coordinating the efforts they were on the phone with. They began to get belligerent with staff at Good Hope, not here. Here, once the police were called, the police came over from the police department and they basically just sat back down and they were respectful here. But they got belligerent with the chief election inspectors at both Good Hope and Bavarian Beer House. The police had to be called to both locations. And at both locations, one person was removed for not complying with the orders from the chief election inspector. I do believe, and they said when they left here around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, that they would be back later this month in August and in November. So I do believe it is a dry run or a test run for what we're going to see happen at future elections. The group then went to Milwaukee Central Count, where they began attempting to challenge every single absentee ballot that was counted. We had present here in the city hall 2 individuals who have been in the newspapers quite a bit. One of them has done probably 3 or 4 dozen lawsuits, basically trying to say that there's no way you can have absentee ballots and not have fraud. So he's tried to basically say that all absentee balloting is fraudulent. He's been thrown out of court many times. He's got a number of other cases that are still pending. And we had another individual who was here, who you probably read in the papers, of a gentleman from Racine who ordered a bunch of absentee ballots and had them sent to Speaker Robin Voss. He happened to be one of the folks who was here in Glendale City Hall. I say the folks here at City Hall, while they did object to the ballots and it delayed the beginning of the count till after 10 o'clock, they were actually respectful here. But the folks at the other 2 locations, we had to have police involvement. I just wanted to applaud the police for the quick way they responded, the very respectful way they treated the observers. People have the right to observe elections. We have a space set aside for observers at every single polling place in all of our elections. People also have the right to question absentee ballots. There are a handful of items that the Wisconsin Election Commission, with the help of the courts, has said these are the reasons you may challenge a ballot. And the folks were provided those lists at all three locations, and they continued to challenge everything from a stray scratch mark on an envelope. There's a stray pen mark. I mean, they were looking for anything and everything they could find to challenge the ballots. So I just wanted you all to be aware that that happened. We responded very quickly. Clerk informed me, and then I did a significant amount of press. Want to make sure that everyone here was aware of how it happened, and also to know that we have amazing poll workers. And I know a lot of our poll workers, some of them are Republicans, some of them are Democrats, a lot of them are independents. We have people that get together and serve their community and provide an amazing service on election day. Our process goes smoothly, and I have no question whatsoever about the honesty and the integrity of our clerk, our city staff, and all of our poll workers who work the polls. So just want you to be aware that we may see incidents in the future, but we did a very good job of handling that here. And so I commend the staff for the work that they did and commend our poll workers. I did just want to ask, Chief, if you could just fill us in. We have the RNC next week. We don't meet for 2 weeks. Can you just tell us what the police are going to be doing to make sure that the folks who are staying at our hotels, we don't have any state delegations staying here, but we do have a number of groups that will be represented who, vendors, news crew, stuff like that will be present. So if you can just tell us like what you're going to do to make sure that those folks are safe.
In addition to the 5 officers we'll be sending each day to the RNC, we will also be having, we know the hotels will be staying at, and we have a process of entering them into our database, but officers will log their extra watches, walk through the hotels just to make sure everything is going smoothly and there are no issues, and just to make sure everyone's safe and there's no issues in our hotels while they're here visiting.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, well, that concludes all the items on our agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Gelhardt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bailey. All those in favor of adjourning, aye.
Aye.
I.
Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.